I've always believed that building platforms for open communication is more important than keeping regulators comfortable, and as I sit here reflecting on the European Union's latest wave of scrutiny under the Digital Services Act, I can't help but think about how every major leap in technology has always been met with some kind of a political turbulence. And now with X becoming the global town square in a way that is more direct, less filtered, and far more unpredictable than anything that came before it, the pressure has only intensified, especially as the EU considers expanding its investigation into everything from content moderation practices to allegations of political boosting. And while people imagine that this kind of regulatory attention would slow me down or make me rethink the mission, the truth is that it reinforces why I made the decision to acquire the platform in the first place, because humanity needs a space where ideas can clash without being sanitized or centrally edited by powerful interests. Yet, ironically, the more we push for transparency and algorithmic openness, the more governments and institutions demand additional controls. And I find myself revisiting meetings where Brussels officials talk about responsibility thresholds and systemic risk assessments, while I try to remind them that freedom of speech is messy by design, that real conversation requires chaos, that you can't engineer perfect harmony without killing the very energy that makes dialogue meaningful. But of course, these discussions never stay philosophical for long because they always return to the numbers. How many posts we removed, how many we left up, which political messages supposedly got algorithmic lift. Even though our systems are increasingly open source and the code is visible for anyone willing to actually look, and while critics say we're reckless, I see us as pioneers experimenting in real time with how a global platform can operate transparently at scale. So, when the EU signals that it might widen its investigation, I don't experience it as some dramatic shock, but as another chapter in the same ongoing negotiation between innovation and regulation, one that stretches back through every industry I've touched, whether it was electric vehicles, rockets, or brain-machine interfaces, because pushing boundaries always provokes institutional alarm, and honestly, if it didn't, I'd probably assume we weren't trying hard enough. And even though their inquiries dig into moderation policies and risk mitigation frameworks and the subtle politics of what content trends and what doesn't, I always return to the principle that institutions should not be the arbiters of truth. People should be free to encounter information, debate it, challenge it, reject it, and yes, sometimes be uncomfortable with it because discomfort is the engine of progress. And while some European officials worry about the destabilizing potential of unfiltered communication, I worry about the opposite, the stagnation that comes from overmanaged public discourse. And running X in this environment feels like piloting a spacecraft through a dense regulatory asteroid field. But I've never been intimidated by complex trajectories. And if anything, the scrutiny forces us to engineer better systems, clearer documentation, more robust safety layers that still preserve speech rather than suffocate it. And despite the noise, the headlines, the predictable outrage cycles, I remain focused on building a platform that belongs not to governments or corporations, but to the people who use it. And whether the EU expands its investigation or not, the mission stays the same. Defend free expression, build technology that scales human conversation rather than restricts it, and keep pushing forward even when the world insists on pulling back. And as all of this unfolds, I can't help thinking about how every time we push for a more open, decentralized system on X, there's this immediate counterforce from institutions that have grown accustomed to controlling the flow of information, and the irony is almost too perfect, because while they accuse us of political boosting or inadequate moderation, the real story is that we're dismantling the opaque machinery that used to decide what people could or couldn't see online, and that shift terrifies anyone who benefited from the old arrangement. So, when the EU signals it may intensify its investigation, I interpret it less as a legal process and more as a stress test for the world's appetite for authenticity. Because in a strange way, X has become a mirror, reflecting everything societies want to ignore: messiness, disagreement, uncomfortable truths, unconventional opinions, the raw friction of human thought. And every regulator who interacts with us is forced to confront this question of whether they want a platform that presents a curated illusion of harmony, or one that allows reality to exist in its naturally chaotic form. And I keep telling them that our goal isn't to create chaos, but to allow conversation to evolve without excessive interference. And yes, we need safety systems, and yes, we need mechanisms to prevent harm. But those systems should be tools, not ideological filters. And sometimes I feel like I'm back in the days when people insisted electric cars would never work, or that a privately built rocket could never reach orbit. Because every time the future starts to take shape, the past fights back. And right now, X is that future. This unpredictable living network where speech, algorithms, ideas, controversies, breakthroughs, nonsense, brilliance, and human creativity all collide in real time. And part of me wonders if the EU recognizes that no investigation, no matter how broad, can ultimately contain the momentum of millions of people communicating freely. And even though they'll push for new reports, new audits, new compliance structures, I'm preparing for all of it, not because I enjoy bureaucracy, but because engaging with it is the cost of transforming something as fundamental as global communication. And I'm not going to let fear of regulatory pressure dilute the vision, not when humanity desperately needs platforms that aren't controlled by legacy elites or hidden ranking committees. And so, while Brussels drafts new letters and analysts debate the severity of their next steps, I'm working with teams who stay up all night, refining the architecture, improving transparency, strengthening the systems that keep the platform safe without muting it. And deep down, I know that the more they scrutinize us, the more they're inadvertently proving our point. That X has become so influential, so central to public dialogue, that its openness itself is now seen as a threat by those who prefer predictability over freedom. But the future doesn't get written by the predictable. It gets written by the stubborn, the restless, the ones who keep building even when regulators, critics, and entire institutions tell them to slow down. And that's why I'm not slowing down. Not now, not ever. And the deeper I go into this battle over digital sovereignty and the future of speech, the more I realize that what's happening with X isn't just about content moderation or algorithmic transparency, or whatever the EU decides to label as systemic risk this month. It's about a fundamental philosophical split in how humanity should communicate. Because on one side you have people who believe conversation must be managed, filtered, socially engineered for the sake of order. And on the other side, you have this emerging global culture that refuses to be supervised. A culture that actually thrives on the unpredictable collisions of ideas. And somehow I've ended up right in the center of that tension, watching regulators insist that the future must behave like the past, while millions of users reinvent what communication even means in real time. And sometimes when I'm in these high-pressure meetings with officials quoting articles from the Digital Services Act explaining the legal basis for deeper investigations, I think about how absurd it is that we're having 21st century debates with 20th century assumptions about information control because the world has changed, the architecture has changed, and you can't regulate human expression the same way you regulate industrial pollution, but still they try, and still we push back. And in the middle of all of this, I keep remembering why I bought X in the first place. It wasn't for comfort, it wasn't for profit, it wasn't for predictable applause. It was because the world desperately needed a place where people could speak without everything being run through some ideological checkpoint. And yeah, it's risky, yeah, it's chaotic, yeah, it makes certain governments nervous, but revolutions always do. And what we're doing on X is nothing less than a communication revolution. Something that doesn't wait for permission slips from regulators who still think virality can be controlled like electricity on a grid. So when they talk about widening their investigation, examining political amplification, probing whether some viewpoints travel further than others, I listen, I respond. But internally I'm thinking, of course. Ideas travel unevenly. That's called human interest. That's called culture. That's called people choosing what matters to them instead of what legacy institutions expected them to care about. And as all this escalates, part of me feels that the EU isn't just questioning our systems. They're wrestling with the reality that centralized narrative control is slipping away. And once people get a taste of unfiltered conversation, they don't go back. And so, even if Brussels spends months or years turning every knob of the DSA to scrutinize X, I'll keep investing, keep building, keep expanding the platform into something even more resilient. Because if free expression is going to survive in the digital age,